What is good? Good people out in YouTube and Facebook land. It's the homie T1 coming back at you. And it's been a long time. I shouldn't have left you without a video to step two. I'm back again with more nuggets for you. The big homie, Eshawn Burgundy, is dropping science right now. He's dropping knowledge. He's actually dropping a bomb and actually causing a little bit of controversy, I think, when he brought back the issue of Christian rapper. Are we Christian rappers or are we not Christian rappers? To be or not to be, that is the question. Well, the truth of the matter is, someone told me a long time ago that questions that aren't thoroughly answered never seem to go away. And I think that this is one such case. I want to address a few things when it comes to being a Christian rapper. I've actually been thinking about this lately because I read an article from a gentleman who I'm trying to engage in conversation and dialogue. He doesn't seem to be interested in doing that. I think he just thinks that I want to argue and be combative. He wrote an article and, it was classic, Reach Records, are they doing the right thing? He seems to think that they are and that people are too critical of Lecrae and co. In this article, he brought back some old cliche arguments, I think, and, should you be a Christian rapper? And he actually introduced me to a new term that I had never heard before, the JPMs in our music. What is JPMs? It's Jesuses per minute. Apparently there's a minimum number of Jesuses per minute that you have to have in your music in order for it to be Christian music. Apparently that's an argument that somebody's making. I haven't heard anybody actually make that argument, but I think it's a cliche argument that a lot of people who chafe under the criticism that is generally levied against those who are of the Reach Records mantra or mindset. So I was thinking about this thing and I thought that I should bring it back. Now, let me just say this about the Christian rapper title. I believe, officially, this is my official stance. You ready? I believe that it is certainly within the prerogative and the preference of the artist to determine whether or not they'd like to be classified as a Christian rapper or not. Now, on the other hand, I actually think that in a practical sense, it's not really a battle that you're going to win. As a matter of fact, Lecrae has been saying repeatedly that he's not a Christian rapper, and every single person that has referred to him in the mainstream media has referred to him as a Christian rapper. So much for that. I guess it hadn't worked too well. If he doesn't want to be a Christian rapper, that is his prerogative. I'm not so concerned about what he calls himself. I'm more concerned about not just Lecrae, by the way, him and others who are of that mindset. I'm not concerned about what he calls himself or what they call themselves. I'm more concerned about what they are and what the content of their music is. And I like how Brady Fanatic Goodwin put it, and I like to quote Brady because he's the big homie. It's not about whether or not you wear the title, but whether or not the title suits you. And I think what he means by that is that if you are a Christian and if you are a rapper and someone calls you a Christian rapper, then that title shouldn't be inappropriate for you, although you don't have to wear it. I tend to be of that mindset. But I want to address a very cliche and a very poor argument that I've heard quite often levied when trying to defend those who say, I don't want to be a Christian rapper, those who would criticize that purview. The argument goes kind of like this. Well, you wouldn't call a Christian plumber, would you? Or you wouldn't call a Christian chef a Christian chef, would you? No, they're just a plumber. No, they're just a chef. Gotta be honest with you, this is a really weak argument. And I'm going to quote one of my, not quote, but I'm going to make a reference to one of my favorite authors, one of my favorite out-of-the-box thinkers, a guy named Malcolm Gladwell. He wrote a book called Outliers, another one called Blank, another one called Tipping Point. New York Times best-selling author, very insightful guy. He doesn't really write on spiritual issues. It's more like business and, cultural phenomena type things that he writes about. But anyway, he said something, he brought up an argument with regards to performance-enhancing drugs in Major League Baseball. And he says, I don't get why people get so upset about Alex Rodriguez and different ones actually using like for example, testosterone to increase their performance. They said in baseball, major league pitchers can have this surgery called Tommy John surgery. It's actually where they take your ligament out of your arm and they replace it with a ligament from another part of your body or from a cadaver. And this, in every single case, actually enhances the performance of the pitcher. Nobody thinks that's weird or strange, right? 70%, he said, of major league pitchers have had this surgery. It enhances their performance. But then everyone gets all bent out of shape when Alex Rodriguez takes some testosterone, which is naturally occurring in his body, which is available to anybody with a prescription. Me, you, everybody in the whole planet who is of age can go to a doctor and get this testosterone prescribed to them. There's nothing illegal about it, and yet everyone gets all bent out of shape when the pitcher can do this, but Alex Rodriguez and other ones can't do the testosterone. And for the first time, I actually thought, that's actually a really good point. Not that I'm saying you ought to be able to use testosterone. Listen, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a physician. I don't know why they've outlawed it. I just know that they do, and I know that if you do use it, you're cheating. But it is an interesting argument and an interesting point to make. And his point was that, not necessarily that he was right, but the whole idea of these guys obtaining an unfair advantage because they use this testosterone or whatever other hormone they use. If that's going to be your argument for saying that you should ban it, then you need a new argument. He's saying there might be other reasons why they shouldn't be able to use testosterone or other hormones, but you need a new argument if the sole argument is, well, it's because it gives them an unfair advantage, because clearly the pitchers get an unfair advantage by having their ligament replaced in their arm, and nobody seems to think that anything's wrong with that. Okay, I say all that to say, long way to go around the bend to say, if you are someone who thinks that a person doesn't need to use the Christian label to be a Christian and an artist, that is totally fine. But you know what? You need a better argument. You need a new argument. It's not that you're wrong. It's just that this whole Christian chef and Christian plumber idea is really quite, it's just a poor argument. When it comes to things that we do that have a metaphysical underpinning, in other words, it has a foundation where the very nature of the thing implies certain truths about the world. Things that are not physical in nature, but they're philosophical in nature and, dare I say, spiritual in nature. They have the ability to manifest certain claims about your worldview. Now, when it comes to a chef and when it comes to a plumber, it doesn't matter how good you bake a turkey or how well you tighten a wrench. It does not matter how you do that. That job function in no way, shape, or form has the capacity to communicate anything about someone's worldview or their Christian beliefs, whether they affirm or deny their truths. So, for that reason, it would be ridiculous to call them a Christian plumber and a Christian chef or whatever it is, because it's a category mistake. It's silly. It's an impossibility. Even though a person does not have to take on the title of a Christian author or a Christian artist or a Christian entertainer, it is not inappropriate to do so if in fact their content is markedly Christian, if in fact their content actually communicates truths about the Christian faith, and when one sits down and consumes the content they create, they're going to walk away saying that person believes in the fundamental truths of Christianity. So you can do those jobs in such a way that they actually communicate our faiths, whereas you cannot do your job in such a way, if you're a chef, that communicates that you're a Christian. I guess you could make cross-shaped pastries. I don't know how that would communicate that you're a Christian, but anyway, do me a favor, just stop, okay? It's not a good argument, okay? It should be well and good enough for you to say, well, they do mainstream music, and they just want to communicate that their music is not simply for Christians. Sometimes they touch on tangential issues, things that are not specifically unique to Christianity. And because they do that type of music, if they took the label of Christian off of it, they haven't sinned. That certainly is their prerogative. That's fine. You can make that argument, but please stop with the Christian chef comparisons. They really are bad. Now, a sister argument to this, this is one that always seems to follow behind the whole should Christians label themselves, is the whole how much Christianity should be in your music before it is labeled as Christians, or before it is labeled as Christian. So I was thinking about this as I was introduced to the new term, the JPMs, or the Jesus is per minute. And I really realized that this, because it's so closely linked to the Christian rap issue, it really is a red herring. What's a red herring? A red herring is an argument. It's just a way to refer to an argument in philosophical terms where you have a smelly old fish. It's these herrings. And you take these smelly old fish, and somebody who's maybe doing something, they're hunting, they'll take these smelly fish and they'll toss the fish out, and then the dogs who might otherwise get on the scent to the thing that you're actually hunting, they'll be thrown off by these herrings because the scent is so strong it actually sidetracks them and makes them kind of chase the tangent, really go after something that's not really the thing that they're after. Is the whole idea. So that's where the argument, the whole idea of a red herring argument came from. Well, this is a red herring, and I think it's a red herring because this really isn't the issue. I like to say that I definitely affirm that music doesn't always have to come from Christians. It doesn't always have to be explicitly about the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus in order to obviously be Christian. And I think people make this argument because they want to justify really a Christ-less message rather than a Christ-accommodating message, or where a message where even though Christ is not the main subject of the song or the creative work of art, sometimes what Christian artists do is they purposely leave out a Christ-centered perspective, or really they might be talking about something that's not specific to Christianity or unique to Christianity, but leave their Christian perspective out of it. For example, I have a song on my album, Full Circle, shameless plug. If you don't have it, click in the link below. You'll be able to go get it. I have a song called Good Thing, and I talk in Good Thing about my relationship with my wife. That's what the song is about. Girl, I'm so committed. Yeah, we can take it slow. We're ordinary people, but God knows the way to go. He lights our pathways, no matter how dark it gets. We got the blueprint, better yet, we know the architect. We got that romance, but it's more than candlelight for two. Cause love is war, and I got ammo, so I fight for you. Learn to deny myself and consider what's right for you. And love you like my own body, that's what Christ would do. It's a forever love, baby, not just a night or two. Relationships that crash and burn, that's what they try to do. But in the song, I talk about God on 2 or 3 separate occasions, not because God is the main focus of the song, but because I am a Christian, and because I can't talk about my marriage without including God in it, because as a Christian, God is a very important focal point when it comes to marriage. I mean, Jesus is at the center of every Christian's worldview. No matter what you're talking about, Jesus is always at the center. So it's not inappropriate to talk about God, even though the main subject of the song is a good thing. So in the song, the Jesus is per minute tally would have to be like, I don't know, like maybe a half of one every minute. It's really not very many times that I refer to God or Jesus at all. But I think what some people do, and this is the problem that I have, is when they start to talk about things, yes, they're Christians, and they're talking about things that aren't necessarily about God, but what some people do is they purposely leave anything out that might refer to God specifically or Christ specifically. They do that only because they want to appeal to a broader audience. And that, to me, I think is problematic. Why? Because you're censoring yourself. You're censoring your own music. I can't imagine like 50 Cent or Eminem or Jay-Z not saying something that they really feel like is a part of their worldview and who they are because they're afraid that Christians will be offended by it, or Christians won't buy their music, or Christians won't give it a chance. So why do we do the opposite? People in the world say whatever they want. And we in the Christian media, and people who are Christians who want to be out in the mainstream, we want to censor our own stuff because we don't want people to not give it a try. I think this is problematic, and I think that this is really the issue that's trying to be avoided when they say, well, how many JPMs do I got to have for it to be Christian? You don't need a lot of JPMs, friend. You just don't need to censor your own music If Jesus is at the center of your life and at the center of your heart, then let that shine through in your lyrics and don't be ashamed. So, those are the issues I've got for today. The JPMs and really the Christian rapper or not Christian rapper title is not the issue. The issue is are we being who we really are in our music? Are we letting that shine through? And whether we decide to wear the Christian rapper label or not, does it suit you? Because if you are a Christian and someone calls you a Christian rapper, it should suit you. It should fit you. It should be something that is appropriate given who you are and given the content of your music. You should not be offended at that, but rather you should celebrate that fact. And that's what I have to say about that, friends. God bless you, and I'll see you later.